Welcome back to My Face. My name is Rihanna. I'm the head honcho here at Bamby Media, coming at you again today with some fantastic statistics to explore because Edison Research has released their Infinite Dial for 2023. So these are the Australian podcasting industry trends. We're going to go through the section of the Infinite Dial that is particularly related to podcasting, and I'm going to screen share. So if you are on the podcast platforms like Apple or whatever, I'm going to break it down for you as best I can. But if you want to watch it, head on over to YouTube so that you can see exactly what I'm sharing here, as well as I will provide the resources so that you can check out the full Infinite Dial as well. All right, so if we skip through to the weekly podcast listening, this is the bit that is getting me very excited. If we look back at 2017, just as a benchmark here, the podcasting industry has actually just turned 20. Hooray, happy birthday to podcasting. But as far as how it's developing in the Australian market, it really has only started to kind of kick off properly in the last 5 sort of years. If we look back at 2017, the percentage of the population that listened to podcasts back then was about 10%. And then it's been growing, and around 2021, it got quite big. And that was through COVID, where everyone was kind of in their houses. Podcasting was such a great way to connect with people. They wanted to have conversations. Lots of people started them. Lots of people started listening to them. So 26% of people in 2021 of the population were listening to podcasts at that time. Now that's now risen to 33%, which is estimating about 7 million people listen to podcasts weekly. This is a fantastic statistic. And this graph also shows you just how valuable the podcasting industry is becoming. It does mean that there's going to be more advertising. I can see where it's going to go. You know, it's going to be something where brands start to realize what an impact podcasting can make for them. So there's going to be these connections that are only just kicking off, and there's going to be further connections there made as well. But you can see there, 33% of the population is quite huge. If we look at the weekly podcast listening for the Australian population based on their age, the most frequent listener is still within the ages of 18 to 24. Ages 25 to 39 are in that kind of range as well. So we've got 54% 18 to 24, 48% ages 25 to 39. 33% ages 40 to 55. And the interesting area for me is that higher bracket too, that 40 to 64 kind of range. It used to be that if you talked about a podcast to someone that was over the age of like 45 a few years ago, they'd be like, what's a podcast? Especially in that older age group between the 55 to 60 and onwards, they wouldn't know what it was. And you'd have to kind of explain that it was kind of like a radio show, but a little bit different to that. Now, based on these statistics that we're seeing, that age group is really starting to love listening to podcasts. And so it's something that if you're in that market yourself and that is a target for you, then don't go, oh, my demographic that I'm after aren't listening to podcasts. That is absolutely not true. And the statistics prove that. The other one that I found interesting was the ages 12 to 17. That's 36% of the population in that age group listen to podcasts now. And that has really been a big jump from what it used to be. There's this younger age that are now communicating a lot, and I did a podcast episode on this a little while back on social media. TikTok especially is really taking off and driving a lot of traffic to podcasts for that younger generation, and it's an area that I think is going to just get much more saturated in a lovely way as well. So if you're supporting that age group, then make sure that you have really good quality social snippets, that you're sharing them to TikTok and areas where we know the Gen Z population are, so that you can actually benefit from what these statistics are showing us for that age group as well. Go and listen to the other episode that I have about Gen Z podcasting trends. I'll put a link in the resources sections for that. If that's a demographic that you're after, definitely that podcast episode will be a great resource for you. Okay, so if we look through to the next one here, weekly podcast listening based on country. It is actually so exciting to me and for anyone that is in the podcasting space to see that Australia per capita, is now the country that listens to podcasts the most out of anywhere else in the world. So it used to be that US was winning, they're at 31%, and now Australia is winning at 33%. So if you are in the Australian market, now is a fantastic time to be in the market or get into the market. People are more wise to what makes a good podcast these days. You used to be able to get away with, doing a show that was kind of a bit more laid back, or maybe the quality wasn't that good, or you could kind of get away with things a little bit more when the industry wasn't so developed and sophisticated. The fact that we've got such a high percentage of the population now listening to podcasts on a weekly basis, 33% of the population now listening, you have to get a little bit more sophisticated in the delivery of your podcast, because it's kind of like they can curate their experience more, because there is more, competition out there. There are a lot of podcasts out there, and people have been listening to podcasts long enough now that if it's not up to scratch, then they will turn it off and they have another option, because there's something like yours out there that may be done a little bit better. That's not to scare you, but certainly is something to be aware of, especially when you can see these kind of statistics. The next little bit that we're going to go through here is weekly podcast listening. As you can see, just the graph here, US versus Australia, the competition that's been going on here for a while. From 2017, so back quite a few years ago, it used to be that the US was winning at 15% and 10% for us. And that's been slowly growing. The US took off a lot quicker than the Australian market did. But just note as well that the US podcasting market has been going a lot longer. As I said, podcasting is 20 years old as an industry, and Australia really didn't get it until probably 5 to 8 years ago and start really harnessing that. So it makes sense that we've caught up, but I do really like that we've now overtaken that space. The number of podcast episodes listened to in the last week, based on the data that Edison Research has supplied here or been able to develop, is down to 5 episodes. It used to be up around 9 to 7, so people are listening to less. They're engaging, though, more fully with the podcast that they are listening to. So they may be listening to more episodes of that podcast. They maybe feel more invested with the podcast. People are subscribing to shows now. They're putting money behind these shows. So don't be deterred by the fact that people are actually listening to less shows at 5 episodes on average per week. Know that they are more engaged and they feel more connected to those podcasts that they are listening to. So it's important for you to understand that and go, right, well, how can I cut through the noise of others in my industry so that I'm one of these 5 that people are listening to? If we then look at the podcast listening locations, I always love this bit of data, because I used to think that once COVID was over, it would be that people would listen to podcasts not at their home so much, and that something else would take over, like on their commute to work or walking around. But you can see here from the data that 87% of people still listen to their podcasts at home. We've got 64% listening in a car or a truck, 54% walking around on foot, 40% on public transport, 33% at work, and 29% are at the gym while working out. I thought that number would be higher, but I think also that the gym is more like you're listening to music and things that pump you up. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to feel like listening to an in-depth conversation when you're like pumping iron, or you're running hard on a treadmill or something. You kind of want something to listen to that feels like can amp you up a little bit more. That's, for me personally, that's what I think anyway. So if we look at that statistic of 87% of people listening to podcasts in their home, what does that tell us? Generally, it tells us that they're doing something in their home while they're listening. And that's, for most people, and for me personally, it's cleaning, it's hanging out the washing. Maybe I'm putting my makeup on, I'm starting the day. I want to listen to something that's motivational or inspirational or something funny, something that's going to make me start my day feeling really connected to the mission that I have for that day. What this means is that your hands are busy. Okay, they're like putting your makeup on or hanging things out, you're using pegs, all the things. That means that people are less likely to be turning you off. If you're in their ears, if they're listening to you, their hands are busy, they have no way of turning it off. So your consumption rate, the amount of time that they spend with you, listening to you in their ears, is much higher because they're in the home and they're doing something else, but they're engaging with you in their ears. This builds the know, like, and trust quicker than you think it would. It helps you gain business. It helps you with lead generation. Knowing that they have you in their ears for longer because their hands are busy is actually going to work in your favor. So don't forget about the value. If we go and move into the services that people use to listen to podcasts, this is just a little bit of a tidbit here. Spotify has now overtaken Apple and YouTube. Apple and Spotify used to have this nice dance between each other where Apple would win and then Spotify would win, and it was kind of neck and neck. But Spotify has really upped their game in the promotion of podcasts on their player. So they're now at 66%, but the one just below it is YouTube at 61%, something I harp on about all the time. And I have multiple podcast episodes about the value of YouTube, especially now that YouTube has a particular tab dedicated to podcasts. They're going to be promoting podcasts. They are very much invested in the podcasting space. So for you to get on there is important for the growth of your show. And I have a podcast episode that I'll link in the resources for you so that you can understand that at a bit of a higher level as well. As we delve into that, kind of one of the other things that I like to look at, which I'm still very comforted by, is the proportion of people that listen to audio-only podcasts versus those that listen with video. So we've got 86% of people still listen just to audio-only podcasts. They don't listen with video, they don't watch. That's really good. It does mean as well that if you struggle to have a video component, that's okay. Like, you don't have to freak out about not having video. Lots of people just want to connect with podcasts through the medium that it was originally intended for. But you've also got 51% of people that listen to podcasts with video that they actively watch. And you've got 43% of people listen to podcasts with video that you minimize or play in the background. So there is a high percentage of people that put YouTube on second tab. They're not actually watching it, but they're still engaging with it on a platform like YouTube. But know that audio only is still the strongest way to connect with the platform as well at this time. So that's the wrap up of what I wanted to discuss here today for the Infinite Dial podcasting state of the industry for 2023. I'm very comforted by this information, by the industry as a whole. It's growing. It's an area where if you haven't dived into podcasting yet and it's something that feels like it's kind of going to float your boat, then there has never been a better time. To have 33% of the population listening to podcasts every week in Australia, oh, it's so great. It's so great. And if you have a show already, the only way is up, really. If you're supporting it with other great content, so if you're repurposing it confidently, you've got good show notes going, you're creating articles, you're putting it on your newsletter, you're going on other people's shows, all these things are connecting to each other. And I want you to remember that podcasting is essentially another form of social media. So I want you to be confident in the fact that if you're not on all the channels and podcasting and talking feels like something that connects to you, then please give it a crack. It is such a good medium to have fun with. You can do just about anything. It's very creative and it's something to dive into. If you're wanting to get going on it, I would recommend doing our Let's Get Launchy course. If you're wanting to do it yourself, we have a course that steps you through the entire process from beginning to end to launch. I'll put a resource link in there for you if that's something you want to DIY yourself. If you're wanting help to grow your show or launch it or produce it, then you can reach out to us as well. We do have a limited client roster that we take on, but we absolutely are always looking for this great shows to work with. So absolutely happy for you to reach out to us if that feels like it is something that connects with you. If you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe the channel. You can do that just by clicking those little buttons there. And if you're over on the podcast platforms, then hit the follow button. And I will be giving you more information every week. Thanks for joining me. My name is Brianna, and I hope you have a glorious rest of the week.